Start. Oh, finally. Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. This is your boy MagMongoSlade. It is March the 2nd. And it was time for our Thursday live stream. Thirsty Thursday. My mouth is dry. Already. I ain't started doing nothing yet. Mouth dry. Mouth dry. Anyway, how y'all doing? We got a vitally important show to do today. We got at least 2 or 3 major topics. Try to get done in an hour and a half. Let's all go to bed at a decent hour, unless you will work the night shift. 1, we're going to be talking about Daria Baronato, a.k.a. Sonya Deville, getting caught with the blicky in New Jersey. 2, Endeavor might not be in the WWE lottery after all. 3, we're going to talk about REELZ and MLW and what that could possibly mean for their lawsuits. Nothing. And then maybe we'll do an open forum for a little while. Let you guys talk about whatever it is you want to talk about before we get there. Okay? So at about 3 minutes after, I'm going to let some people slide on in here. I'm going to start talking about Sonya Deville. It's a crazy story, isn't it? I mean, it just came out of nowhere. It just popped up literally out of nowhere. But I got so many thoughts on this. Greetings and salutations. Greetings and salutations. It is great Thursday. The day before Friday. It's weekend, man. It's the weekend, man. I had a friend who put me up on some G. Craig Robinson, The Truth About Hip Hop, that series. And I've been listening to those joints at work. Very interesting stuff. Very, very interesting stuff. There's 13 of them jumps though. There's 13 of them joints. I get through like 1 or 2 a shift. I don't listen to podcasts, so these are those are pretty interesting. I like interesting things though. I like podcasts, but I don't sit down and listen to them. It has to be an interesting subject or an interesting person, and usually those 2 things are not the same thing. So it's unfortunate. So we'll give people a couple more seconds to file in, and then we're going to talk about the Sonya Deville situation, and then we might talk a little bit about gun control, because why not? It seems very pertinent to this conversation about guns and national gun registries and all this kind of stuff, which is policy. I don't want to spend too much time on that though, because that can really quickly get bogged down and become a whole long thing. But thanks everybody for coming in. Now let us talk about Sonya Deville. So it came out on March the 1st. March the 1st. Sonya Deville was arrested in Atlantic City. What was it? Atlantic City, New Jersey. Was for having a pistol. Man, this is a crazy story. Let's get into it. So the Philadelphia Inquirer. I know TMZ broke the story, but I don't like using TMZ as a source. I don't really like using TMZ. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use the Philadelphia Inquirer, or the Inquirer. So here we go. WWE wrestler Sonya Deville. I was trying to put not the chat, but the timestamps in the chat, but this damn button won't move. Get this thing out of the way. Like I want to use my chat. What the fuck? This is ridiculous. Anyway, let's move on before I get frustrated and start cussing. Anyway, WWE wrestler Sonya Deville arrested at Bogota for unlawful gun possession. Unlawful gun possession. According to who? Well, the state of New Jersey. Goddamn state of New Jersey. Isn't that where the Sopranos hail? Anyway, let's move on. A popular WWE wrestler was arrested last month. Last month? Oh, so it was in February. It must have been late February. At the Borgata in Atlantic City, Atlantic City, for possessing a handgun without a valid permit to carry a firearm in New Jersey, police said Wednesday. Daria Baronato, who performs as Sonya Deville for WWE, was charged with unlawful possession of a weapon and then released on a summons for a future court date that has not been scheduled, the Atlantic City Police Department said in a statement. On February 19th, police were called to the Borgata after a valet employee discovered a handgun in a vehicle that was being parked. A valet discovered her handgun while the car was being parked. Okay. When the officers arrived, Baronato, the owner of the vehicle, was present and cooperating with Borgata security, police said. The 29-year-old, who lives in Florida, told police she was the owner of the handgun and provided a permit to carry the firearm that was from another state and not valid in New Jersey. Police said she was taken into custody without incident. Baronato, who was born and raised in Burlington County, has been described as the first openly gay female wrestler in the WWE. Her most recent posts on her Instagram account, look, who cares about any of this crap? In 2020, a stalker broke into her Florida home in what authorities said was a failed kidnap attempt. That's pertinent to why she had a gun. And no more on that, though. No more on that. We got to talk about her being gay in her Instagram, but we're not going to talk about this guy breaking into her house, scaring her almost to death, and she went and bought a gun, which is the right decision to make. She bought a gun because some guy terrorized her and basically wanted to kill her and her friend. This is literally the stuff that the Second Amendment was created for. I mean, literally, this is a situation where somebody had been terrorized, and then they thought to defend themselves, and the state was like, you know what? We don't respect your license up here. You got to get a New Jersey license. Like, what's the difference? Who cares? That's the thing about licensing. It's all about making money. You paid Florida to carry a gun. You didn't pay us. Like, what's going to be the difference? Like, what really is going to be the difference? I guess it's going to be open carry, concealed carry. That doesn't even matter because she wasn't carrying it. She didn't even have it on her person at the time. This nosy ass valet should be, for starters, we need to find out who that valet is. We need to make him famous. We need to make that valet famous. Because if you find something in somebody's car, you need to mind your business. Unless it's a child tied up in the back seat or something like that, you need to mind your damn business. She had a gun. So what? So what? And my question is, details matter. So when I first heard about this story, somebody said, I believe it was TMZ. Let me take a look before I say just somebody. That the gun was actually put away and the valet was in the glove box. That's the part that I heard. I heard that the gun was in her glove box and the valet, quote unquote, found it. But it sounds what the Inquirer made it sound like is that the gun was laying on the back seat of the car or something like that. Now, here's the TMZ version. It says the Atlantic City Police Department said in a statement Wednesday afternoon that the Borgata Hotel Casino and Spa. They said when officers arrived on the scene, they found Sonya Deville cooperating with security. They claimed during ensuing questioning the WWE superstar admitting to owning the handgun and did provide them a permit for it, though it was not valid in New Jersey. So it says WWE superstar Sonya Deville was arrested for gun possession in New Jersey last month after authorities say they found a firearm in her vehicle that didn't have a proper New Jersey permit. According to the court documents, the incident happened on February the 19th in Atlantic City, when our sources tell us a valet discovered the weapon in her car's glove box and called the cops. So TMZ says it was in the glove box. Nobody else is saying it was in the glove box. But why would she keep it just visible in on the seat of the car? Why would she just leave it visible on the dashboard? Why would she do anything like that? I'm sorry. This valet, we need to have a conversation with this valet. Okay? We got to talk about that. Because under no circumstances should a valet, be used as an agent for the police where you're snooping through people's belongings and then calling the cops. We can't have that. This valet needs to be fired. Okay? This valet needs to be fired. We got to do something about this valet. We can talk about the gun all day. Yeah. She got the gun. We know why she got the gun. She got the gun legally. Maybe and it happens. I had a friend who, drove to North Carolina with his Michigan permitted gun. Just kind of forgot it was in there. He drove all that way. Just kind of forgot it was there. Nobody ever saw it because nobody ever went through his damn car. Unlike when we went to Canada and we had to get out and they stripped that joint. If he'd had a gun then, you'd probably both be in prison. But there was no reason for the valet to be in the glove box to find the gun. Why was the valet in the glove box? That's what I want to know. Either they were trying to steal, which is the number one thing that was on top of my head, or somebody tipped them off. Under no circumstances would a valet need to open your glove box. It's an unlawful search and an unlawful seizure. And it literally doesn't make any sense how they even came in, why you thought just like a wild gun is worth calling the police over. You saw a gun. Oh, there's a gun in this car. I'm going to call the cops. What? Oh, no. See, that's something. That's very suspicious. It says police arrived on the scene, arrested Deville, real name Daria Bernardo. A short time later, and the court's records show she's been charged with 1 count of unlawful weapon possession, handgun without a permit. Sources tell us the wrestler who got the weapon for personal protection after a 24-year-old man allegedly attempted to kidnap her during a terrifying home break-in in Florida back in 2020. We're told the gun is registered in Florida, but not in New Jersey. All right, so let's see what kind of time she's looking at. Because she's probably not going to do any, if we're being honest. She's probably going to plead no contest or something like that, and they're going to say, we're going to confiscate your weapon, which is stupid. To me, it's a conviction for illegal gun possession of a handgun is a second-degree crime. It says a second-degree offense carries a period of incarceration between 5 and 10 years. Get the fuck out of here. She's not getting on 5 to 10 years. This is ridiculous. This is pretty nonsensical. This is from this is from a law office. I don't know. Let's look for the actual statute. Where is the actual statute? Oh, here we go. Oh, here's New Jersey gun lawyers. Well, who cares? As long as they quote the statute, it'll be cool. Unlawful possession of a weapon in New Jersey usually relates to a possession of a gun without a proper permit. This is typically a second-degree charge, punishable by 5 to 10 years in jail, and a mandatory period of parole ineligibility under the Graves Act. However, a seasoned firearms lawyer in New Jersey can fight to keep you out of jail and keep this serious felony charge off your record. Oh, of course, a seasoned lawyer can help you with this. That's not what I wanted to know. I just wanted to know what the penalty was. So, it is a second-degree felony. I'm guessing unlawful possession of a handgun is a felony. So, and therefore 5 to 10 years. She's not going to do any time. WWE is going to get on it, and everybody's going to understand that she got the gun because she got terrorized by some guy. And we need to turn this all to the valet, because the valet ain't got no business snooping around in her car. No business whatsoever. We need to have a conversation about that kind of thing. And I often go off on this channel a lot about government and how I don't think that they do things that make sense. For instance, the same oven that you use to cook chicken for your family somehow becomes not an appropriate oven when you want to sell chicken. Like, you want to make chicken on your stovetop and give it to your sons and daughters, that's perfectly fine. If you want to sell it to your nieces and nephews, all of a sudden, oh boy, you need a whole new stove at that point. You need an industrial stove. It's like, no, not really. Like, that doesn't make sense. If a gun was legally purchased in Florida, can be proven to be legally purchased in Florida, New Jersey should respect that. Just like you respect. I mean, let's take it to the next level. Does she have to get a driver's license in every state that she drives in? So why does she have to get a gun license in every state that she has a gun in? Clearly, if New Jersey respects the Florida driver's license, they should respect New Jersey gun license. Well, Florida gun license. It's literally the same sort of thing. Oh, but there's minor differences, like, written tests and maybe visual tests or whatever, background checks, blah, 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 blah. In some states, if you call ahead of time and say, oh, I'm carrying this weapon, they'll give you the law on what you can and can't do. But I don't think this is going to be the kind of thing that we need to have. We need to have like a big political conversation about this, because I could tell you she didn't drive from Florida to New Jersey to commit some kind of crime with her legally possessed handgun that she left in the car. That wasn't even on her person, that she left in the car. She clearly was not out to do any mischief. So, and my question is, who's the victim? Whenever somebody says something is going wrong, like, who's the victim? Who really was harmed by her having a gun in her car? Was it another one of those, the gun is going to spontaneously combust? Like, no. If she was waving it around or something like that, maybe if she was waving it around, maybe if she was threatening somebody, I would say, okay, maybe you shouldn't do that. But she was in, the spa or whatever, and her gun is in the car, in the glove box, apparently. And some nosy bitch decides to snoop around in her car, probably looking for something to steal, something to hock. Which, to be quite honest, a gun is something that you could probably get some money for, depending on what kind, the make and the model of it. You probably don't want to sell it because you don't know what's on it. You don't know if the numbers are filed off or nothing like that. So you might not want to be too big on trying to sell that thing. But guns typically go for some cash on the street, depending on the kind of gun it is, especially if it's clean. You might have been able to get a nice little chunk of change for it, but you never know what they were trying to do in the glove box, probably stealing. And I'm pretty sure that if you want to steal, man, the valet, there's probably some stuff like, oh, I was driving and the thing just popped open. It just popped open and it fell out. You're like, nah. That doesn't make sense to me. If you say that the glove box just popped open, it wasn't secured or whatever the case may be, the gun still wasn't going to spontaneously combust. You got to act like you've been here before. Just imagine if somebody, which is weird because she has an Italian last name, right? So that's why I kind of made the Sopranos joke earlier. Like, imagine you would have call the cops on somebody who was really in use of a weapon, and you, oh yeah, I was parking the car and I found the gun in the car. Oh really? My uncle's like Jimmy Hoffa or something like that. We're in New Jersey and you found a gun in the car and you're going to call the cops? Oh, well, let's see how that works out for you. That person took a bigger risk than than they were looking forward to. It seems silly to me. It's silly to me that this was even taken seriously. The fact that somebody was called to a crime scene, quote unquote, to which there was no criminal, to which there was no victim. You were called because I found a gun. Okay, you found a gun. Okay, who's the victim? Who was harmed by this? If they would just say we're going to confiscate your weapon because you have an illegal permit, all right, fine. Arresting her was that was too much. That was the cops looking to do something. They could have just confiscated the weapon, said come back and get it when you're about to leave the state, whatever the case may be, or we'll ship it back to you to your home in Florida, which they probably weren't going to do. They probably just throw it in an evidence cabinet somewhere and it just it's just going to disappear, evaporate, end up back on the street. To me, it just makes no sense that the valet would put themselves in danger like that. If you're a valet, you would put yourself in danger like that. That's what made me think that somebody probably was like, I think, and people talk. I've heard valets. I've never personally hang out anywhere where they're going to be valets, but I used to know somebody who was a valet. And they talk a lot about the stuff they find in people's cars. But it's usually stuff they have jammed in the seats, something they found in the coin bin right here or something like that, how the car smelled like weed or feet or something like that. Is it entirely possible that somebody else found the gun and then told that valet and that valet went snitched? Who knows? But ultimately, you put your life on the line, screwing around saying, oh yeah, there's a gun in this car, I'm going to call the cops. My thing is, once you saw that the owner of the gun was a woman, you could probably cool down after that. And I hate to put it that way, but you could pretty much cool down after that. You could probably be like, oh, it's a woman. Aw. If it had been some, big pussy kind of guy strutting out there with his hair all greasy and stuff, I'd have been like, oh, shit. That's when you'd have been like, ah. But you see dainty ass Sonya Deville, like she's not, Tiffany Stratton or anything like that. But you see her walk over there, and you're like, oh, she's like 140 pounds or something like that. Like, she's not about to do anything. She went to the spa, probably with her fiance. It ain't nothing. But they treat guns like nuclear weapons on the East Coast. You're not allowed to have them. It's ridiculous. She went through one of the most traumatic experiences anybody has ever had to go through. And you're talking about her reaction was to go and buy a pistol, which was the right decision. And to be quite honest, she should have had one the first time, because you never know. You never can tell. I think I did a video not too long ago where some of these states would have forced wrestlers to license themselves with their state athletic commissions and all that kind of stuff. When you do your licensing, you have to give your address. So in certain states, you can get a female wrestler's address by just looking up her license online. It's, even if you thought she was some kind of mafia wife or something like that, that would even make you more want to keep your mouth closed. I certainly ain't about to just call the cops on a random gun in the car. I'm not about to do that. It was a valet. She was in an establishment. Okay. It's not like he was walking down the street and there's some bando car with no wheels on it and a gun in the back seat. He probably wouldn't have called the cops then. Probably wouldn't have said nothing. Probably just would have been like, oh, let me get off this block real quick. But this valet must have been some hoity-toity. Oh, I can't believe that valet. That valet need her ass kicked. I'm pretty sure it was a woman. I'm pretty sure it was a woman. I'm kind of mad at those cops too. Like, the cops are going to do what they're going to do. They don't like guns anyway. Yes, women can be crazy. We get it. I know that. But she going to leave her gun in the car? If she was really crazy, she'd put it in her purse. You know? It might have been happy if they'd have found some toys in the trunk. They'd been telling all their friends, oh, I found it was studded and everything. You know, I'll find all kinds of stuff in people's cars. You ain't supposed to be finding nothing in nobody's car. You ain't supposed to be looking. Now, you ain't got no choice. You know, sometimes people just leave stuff laying around. But in the glove box? No. That valet is that whole. I want to know what that area looks like. Because some tells me it's a hoity-toity area where the valets are probably paying too much, or probably paid too much. So they felt like they were doing something. Top flight security, and you know, like, come on. Somebody's gonna get shot in the in the parking lot of this place. This is stupid. Like, that's what I'm trying to get. TN Pyro, what'd you call the cops for? The gun is in the car. There's no person. There's no body. There's nobody's here. Who's going to be hurt? Who's going to be harmed? Because you individually felt threatened. You're going to petition the state to have. Come on. There's no reason to be in the glove box. There ain't no reason for none of this stuff. I've seen people put guns in weird places in their car. Under the seat. In the trunk. I wouldn't put it in the trunk personally. Overhead compartments. Glove box is like the number one place it would probably be. You definitely don't want to leave the gun where somebody can get it. Which is, you know, why I think the best argument is probably she did not lock the glove box, and it was probably just cracked and it popped open. That's me just trying to give the valet some bail. And that, even in that regard, though, you don't call the cops. You just close it. You know, you just close it. I didn't see that. Close it. They got a gun, so why would you tell on them? I wouldn't tell on them. No, see, the thing is, if she goes into the spa with it, then they can say stuff. Since she didn't have it on her person, she just admitted to having it. If she wasn't even, she would have had to admit it to having it because it's probably only her in the car or whatever. Plus, she had a permit for it. She probably figured it wasn't that big of a deal. And plus, it's easier for her if she tells the truth than if she tries to lie or cover it up. But it's much better that she didn't have it on her person. If she'd have had it like in her purse, in the small of her back, tucked somewhere, and she got busted with it, it'd have been on the news when it happened. Mugshot, everything. Like, we're finding out about it 2 weeks after the fact, or a week after the fact. So, the only thing I can say is valet either was snooping to steal, got tipped off by somebody else and then called the cops, or the valet is just a Karen, and those people just exist. Oh my God, it's a gun! We're all gonna die! I'm gonna call the cops! No. I don't believe that. Gray says some states have laws on how you protect your gun. If the valet can easily access, so could a child. Who said it was an easy access? I'm saying that maybe the glove box wasn't completely closed. Even if you get into a car, you hit a bump and the glove box pop open, you just close it and you continue doing your job. You know, but if you're snooping and you're looking for stuff, and then maybe you touch the gun, like, ooh, what's this? Oh no, my fingerprints are all over it. All of a sudden, you want to call the cops. You know, yeah, you should. There's a lot of things people do with guns that they probably shouldn't do, and they do them anyway. You probably shouldn't. There's a lot of things what people do with guns that are very careless. People do them anyway. But I'm just glad she didn't have it on her person. You know, that's the thing. He just started doing. He just started arresting them because of not having guns. Like, oh, where was your gun when all this went down? When all this happened? Well, I don't have a gun. Well, you're irresponsible. You're irresponsible. Um, to me, why nobody's talking about this in terms of she has a right to own a weapon. It's not a concealed carry, open carry issue because she wasn't carrying the weapon. She wasn't brandishing the weapon in any way. She had it in her car. And it was probably a rental car at that. So the idea that her privacy was violated again, this is too much for me. You know? She had her privacy violated by some weirdo who broke into her house. And now some other weirdo broke into her glove box. Like, what is going on here? We need to have a real conversation about these stupid laws. Because if it was legally purchased in Florida, I can pretty much tell you the variations in these laws are so minor. There's no like massive variation in these laws. You know, now when it comes to carrying, there may be some bigger variation in terms of length of if rifles versus pistols, length of weapon, size of magazine, that kind of thing. You know, but just having a gun in the car or something like that, that's like just having a gun in your house. Like, who cares what you got in your car and what you got in your house? As long as you're not, waving it around, if she'd got into an accident and threatened to shoot somebody, okay, maybe we could have that conversation. But she just had a gun in her car. It's just like if you find a gun in somebody's house. So what? That's their personal space. The magazine laws are some of the most ridiculous things in the world. It's one of those backdoor gun control things. You can't have more than 10 shots. You can't have more than what's the next one they talking about now? 3 shots? It's like, oh yeah, we're shooting. I don't know what they're talking about, but ultimately, it's the goofiest thing to have these small little variations of these gun laws, and then they're supposed to make such a big deal. It's obviously a Fourth Amendment violation, but they're going to argue that the valet was not an agent of the state, which is going to change what that means. A government agent and anybody working on behalf of the government, the Fourth Amendment would apply. But a private valet working for a private company, it would not apply. It would not apply. To be quite honest, though, I think DMAC is right. She should sue the spa. I would sue the spa and the valet for violating my personal property, my privacy rights. You had no right to go through my glove box. You certainly had no rights. Again, this is where we talk about access to the glove box being very important, because you give the valet access to your car. But you have to treat the thing about it is, I love this because I studied this stuff. When you give somebody access to something, you can still have certain areas to it that are private. Okay. So, for instance, if you live in a house with somebody, like one of the crazier things is you say a person cannot enter that house, somebody says that they can, but you both live in the same house. All right. So what could happen is one yes usually overrides the no. So if you say I don't want you in here, but your wife, girlfriend, brother, or whatever says come on in, usually that person now has permission to enter the house, even if you own the house. Now, when police do searches and seizures on houses, like a home, there are still areas that can be private. For instance, if I have a locked room in my mother's house and they're not searching, if they're looking for something in my mom's house, but I have a locked room, they can't go into my room because it's locked. It has to have a lock on it, though. And it has to be a reasonable expectation of privacy. So, and the reasonable expectation of privacy, that kind of thing, it gets kind of wonky because the cops will say you have no reasonable expectation of privacy on a public road, which is bullshit. All right. Plain sight is the easiest way to do it. If it's not in plain sight, it usually doesn't fly. But then you'll get into that whole reasonable expectation of privacy. Do you have any expectation of privacy when the valet enters your car? Yes, because you still have glove compartments. You still have a trunk. If they find something in your trunk or your glove compartment where they're not supposed to be, then they have violated your privacy rights. Okay, same thing with the police. The police, they can have the house, they can have the a warrant to search the house, but not any specific thing. Like if they find a safe or something like that, usually they can't open that. They have to get another warrant to get that open. So in this situation, where you're talking about suing the spa, is there a reasonable expectation of privacy when you give the valet access to the car and how they come to finding the gun? That's the question. And we're all being told that the gun was in the glove box. And we're going to assume that the glove box was closed. Okay? So we're assuming that it was closed. It doesn't need to be locked. It just needs to be closed. All right? If it's closed, it can be assumed locked. All right? And that's how, this kind of thing works. If you just, I'm just going to test to see if it's, no. Mm-mm. You're supposed to assume that it's locked. It's already closed. Now, if it wasn't secured and closed, if you want to say, I hit a bump and it popped open, well, maybe. But I'm not sure if I'm going to, how far did this valet have to go? Like, let's see what the road looks like. Let's see what the incline is or something like that. I don't know, man. I'm not buying it. I think you went looking. I think you had to go looking. There's no other way. Unless the glove compartment just popped open, which can happen. It happens on cars sometimes. You hit a bump, it pop open. Or maybe she didn't have it in the glove compartment at all. Maybe it was under the seat of the car, which is a favorite for some people. Some people do put the gun under the seat of the car, which is dumb. This is just so dumb to put a gun under the seat. Unless you're going to tape it under the seat, then that's even dumber. What are you, John Wick? You put it where you can get to it. But I would sue them because the valet went through my personal property, and had no right to. And to me, it makes no sense. I'm dumbfounded by this conception that you have no expectation of privacy. Shoosh. That's unreal, man. You just she went to go get, to sit in some warm water, get cucumbers put on her face. Next thing you know, she getting arrested. The humorous thing about that is this shit was a long time ago and nobody noticed. Shit was almost 2 weeks ago, almost. Absolutely. If it's closed, it's concealed. Now, the government has been trying to, find ways around that for a while, but that one's pretty solid. If it's If it's closed, it's assumed locked and therefore concealed, and they can't open it. Now, houses and stuff like that, it gets a little iffy because there's many doors on a house, and sometimes if they get a warrant, they can go through closets and things like that. But you also have to have a reasonable expectation of privacy, even if they have a warrant. There's still things that they can't go through, still areas that they can't go in, because those areas are separate from where the warrant would be for. But we're not talking about government situation here. We're talking about a private valet who got into somebody's car and found a gun. So it's all screwed up, man. It's unfair that she has to go through all this crap. She didn't ask for this. All she wanted to do was protect herself from another potential weirdo that's out there trying to figure out, where she is, and then she ran into a Karen who snitched on her and called the cops. I wonder if she truly appreciates being in Florida. I bet she appreciates the hell out of Florida. I'm pretty sure she'll probably really think twice before coming back to New Jersey. I know she's from New Jersey, but she should really reconsider even going anywhere near New Jersey. She's probably got family there. Just bring them down. She makes some money, bring them down. I wouldn't even go back to New Jersey, man. There's no point. This situation is so screwed up that she was cooperative and still got arrested. That's nutty. It's embarrassing. Yeah, law-abiding citizens are the only ones that get screwed over when it comes to these gun laws, because they're the only ones that actually try to follow them. They're the ones who try to, figure out how long their rifle is, because they don't want to be in violation of the law. They don't want the government to take them down. It's like, well, look, y'all doing too much, man. Y'all fighting for the wrong rights. Y'all should be fighting for national recognition of permits and stuff like that. Not even going through this stupid state by state junk. It's pointless. It's dumb. What's your take on The Shining? I'm guessing you mean The Shining, the movie. It was one of my favorite movies when I was a kid. Not so much today. Criminals would have had the chopper in the back seat. I know. Trust me. I know. These guys, man, they're pretty flagrant about breaking the law, But that's the thing about, the police and everything, man. They know who they can get over on. They know who they can get over on. Like, I'm telling you, if she was some kind of big pussy kind of character, they probably would have let her walk away. Like, you know what? We don't want that. We don't want that drama. We're sorry, sir. We didn't see anything. And walked away. But it's because it's her. They're like, oh, lady, this gun. Jay Dilla had an album called The Shining. I think he had a song called The Shining. I lost my train of thought. All right, let's move on. Nobody ever has to worry about gun laws if you had no intention on following them. Yeah, so we're not going to follow these stupid laws. Therefore, you don't have to concern yourself with this. So, perfect. So, all right. Let's move on real quick, because I want to get through some of this stuff. And I spent a lot of time on that Sonya Deville thing. Just having my initial reaction to it is just horrifying. It's terrible for her. Gun laws only turn people into criminals. That's the only thing it's for. That's the only thing they're good for. Is they turn innocent people into criminals. You never know what somebody's got a gun for. And it doesn't matter what they have a gun for. You can kill somebody with a screwdriver or a hammer. If they'd have found a hammer in her car, they wouldn't have said anything. You know, they wouldn't have said anything if there was a goddamn chainsaw or a battle axe in her car. They wouldn't have called the cops. They just thought that was eccentric. They thought it was weird. She could have had a damn sword on the dashboard. They wouldn't have called the cops. They called the cops specifically because it was a gun. We're going to talk about Endeavor and WWE. We're going to talk about that in a minute. That's my next topic, actually. Then we're going to talk about REELZ and Peacock. We're going to talk about that third. Yeah, you can kill somebody with everything I just named. You can kill somebody with anything. You can kill somebody with just about any weapon. It was because it was specifically a gun that people feel comfortable calling the police just because they see one. You know, it's ridiculous. You know, if it was not like it was anything out of the ordinary. Like if it was a grenade or something like that, I'd have been like, okay, still don't go in the glove compartment, but I'd have been suspicious of a grenade. You know, if you guys like some kind of weird canister, like it might be tear gas or something like that, I'd be like, what the hell, you got this in the car? Still would have just put it in the glove compartment and closed it and not said anything else about it. Like, you know, ain't none of my business. You know, ain't none of my business. But I would have been suspicious if it was like some kind of explosive. You know, something like that. Yes, if it's explosive, sure. But just a gun, especially if it's just a pistol or something like that, come on. Nah, if it was like a chopper or something like that, a shotgun. But nah, if it's something that's going to blow a CD block in half or something like that, or you know, I'd have been concerned about that. You know, but anything else, you just close the glove compartment and move on. You know, you don't even worry about it. It's none of your business. It's not explosive, so I wouldn't care. You know, like I said, I've seen people carry guns in the weirdest situations, man. Not scared of guns. Like, it is what it is. I don't have one, but you know, I just don't see the benefit of calling the police on somebody who's not harming anybody. What's the benefit to that? Yeah, she hasn't gone to jail. She didn't even go to jail. She probably got booked. They gave her a summons. She went on about her day. That was it. She's gonna have to go to court, but she's probably gonna get some kind of plea deal. They're probably gonna confiscate her weapon, put her on parole. Uh, she may even get banned from having a gun in New Jersey or some shit like that, or it might be some kind of ridiculous probationary period. But it's stupid. She's not going to jail. You probably looked at that and like, oh, 3 to 5 years. Like she ain't going to jail. She's a celebrity and was a victim of a violent crime. Yeah, she's not going to jail. And she's female, so she's definitely not going to jail. You can forget it. So I'm not too concerned about her going to jail or anything like that. I'm more concerned about how does valet find the gun. That's what I want to know. I want details on that. But she's not going to go to trial either. She's going to want this thing swept under the rug, and WWE will too. It should team up Sonya Deville with Lacey Evans, and they should, you know, shoot guns in their promos. But it should be like a Charlie's Angels kind of gimmick with Lacey Evans, Sonya Deville, and Nikita Lyons, where they all just at the shooting range. You know, yeah. Now this is indeed true, especially going to Canada. Canada and other places, that gun law stuff is pretty nutty. Yeah, that would suck. But that's only if she get convicted of a crime. You know, if she pleads, technically it's a conviction, I guess. But she could do some stuff to get it off her record. I think that's what me reading the skilled New Jersey law, so she's gonna be able to get that shit expunged, and it's not gonna be too big of a deal. She's probably just gonna get parole, as long as she doesn't violate parole and carry another gun in New Jersey, she'll be okay. But she should beat the tar out of that damn valet. And since the valet's name would be public, well, at least she would have it. So I would definitely just make your situation worse if you brutalize the valet. You know, you, you only make it worse for yourself. But yeah, I spent almost an hour on that. Crazy thing is, I was going to do a standalone video. And I was like, nah, we need to bring that one on to the gang, man. I'm just floored by that. Just can't believe that they did that shit. All right. We're going to move on to the next topic. Topic 2 is WWE and Endeavor. Endeavor is the company that owns the UFC, and they were asked about a purchase of WWE, and this was the response that they gave.
Just a quick question on the M&A environment, especially now that you guys are down below 4 times. I mean, does it make you guys sort of think more aggressively about potential acquisitions? And then obviously the big one out there seems to be WWE. Just any initial thoughts or how you guys, some commentary on how you look at that entity and any comments on, it looks like Vince thinks it's worth $9 billion. Just any thoughts or color you can provide there would be great. Thanks.
Well, one is we don't, unless you want me to go to jail, we don't comment on our M&A practices. But here's what I would say to you. Is we're truly focused, as Jason said, on delevering. We're not going to do anything that would increase our leverage at this point in time. I would just say, as it relates, we constantly are looking at things out there, but we're not going to leverage ourselves up. Because we're going to be deleveraging. We're going to continue to leverage. As it relates to the WWE, it's an unbelievable product. Vince is an unbelievable, created a great business. We've had a long-standing relationship with them over 2 decades. We're doing, as I indicated, on-location business with them, Endeavor streaming business with them. His business is really valuable. But we're not going to do anything as it relates to kind of changing our leverage position right now. So, I don't know if you have any other comments.
Yeah, I would just add, given, we have, over $750 million of cash on the balance sheet and projecting a really good cash flow generation this year.
All right, so Endeavor, WWE is too rich for their blood. They don't want no part of it. Vince want $9 billion. $9 billion. Okay. So far, NBC, I'm sorry, NBC Universal, they say that they're kind of out of it. And now Endeavor is saying they're kind of out. Kevin Nash is coming out and saying that he thinks that Vince is, quote, unquote, overvaluing the company because he doesn't really want to sell it. That's exposing that a lot of wrestling fans and a lot of wrestlers don't understand business. If you think WWE isn't worth $9 billion, what are you smoking? Really? It's worth $6 billion already. You're like, these people, I never forget this. Like, somebody earlier today said that you could sell WWE for $6.5 billion. That's profit. I'd be like, what? What? You're gonna sell your life's work? Now, this is just the stock, okay? That's whatever they tell you WWE is worth, that's just the stock. All right? They're not taking into account all the other assets WWE owns, like the huge tape library that they own. Those things are kept physically in compounds around New York and Connecticut. They have like a mountain or something like that. That's probably not a literal mountain, but it's like a giant shed, like out in the middle of nowhere that has nothing but like old tapes in it. You have to transfer all of that stuff to the new owners. They have the television shows, what these television shows are worth. They have hundreds of millions of dollars worth of intellectual property. I'm talking the right to John Cena, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Undertaker, Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, in perpetuity, forever. They can make posters, video games, whatever with these guys on it forever. And it's insane to me that people think, oh, you're overvaluing it. It's like, bro, you don't understand the stuff that they have. And they probably still got stuff Vince we don't even know they got. And then they have hundreds of millions of dollars worth of memorabilia in a warehouse somewhere, right? Full of things that you could build a museum with. They have stuff put everywhere. To say that it's just worth the stock price is financially ignorant. You literally don't know anything about business. If you are a company, that's what you're going to be looking at. You're going to be like, okay, this is the stock price. But they don't just own 3 TV shows and that's it. Because you're going to be talking about, the TV shows. The TV shows aren't going to be worth anything if you end up going, losing the TV rights deals, which is true. If you lose the TV rights deal, you lose everything. Essentially, the value of the TV shows diminish. I've talked about that before. We'll talk about it again, probably a little bit later. But like I said, they have, and Bradley Gamble has now confirming that they have an entire mountain in the Catskills that's full of old tapes of like wrestling promotions. That's stuff that they spent hundreds of millions of dollars on. The memorabilia that they bought from the wrestlers. Andre the Giant's boots, Ric Flair's robes, all this kind of stuff that people would pay to see. They have that stuff put up somewhere in Stanford. And they have the intellectual property. Like I said, you could reprint trading cards, you could put them into video games, you could reprint posters, TV shows, whatever you wanted, using the intellectual property of some of the most famous people to ever be on TV. Oh, but it's overvalued at $9 billion. Like, you don't know what the amount of money you can make with this thing. People are just kind of like, well, UFC sold for $4 billion and it's worth a lot more now. I'm like, well, yeah, but UFC is copying WWE to a degree. And Dana White's been open about that. UFC copies WWE. But the thing is, they don't own the rights to characters, which is what WWE owns. WWE owns the right to the names and the look of characters, much like, again, Spider-Man, Captain America, etc., etc. The Undertaker is a character. Stone Cold Steve Austin is a character. Okay? It's not a fighter like, Floyd Mayweather. Okay? It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing at all. Nobody else can play Stone Cold Steve Austin. You can't get away with, we're going to create a new Stone Cold Steve Austin. You can't get away with that. You tried that. The new Razor Ramon and the new Diesel, the new Kane, the new Sin Cara. It doesn't work. It never works. But they own that intellectual property. And they can do whatever they want with it. And some people have a better split than others. I got like a Rey Mysterio has a good split on his intellectual property, which is how he could make money outside the company without probably having to pay the company X amount of dollars or whatever. They own the name Rey Mysterio, though. But he has Rey Mysterio Jr. So if you see like a Russo fight gear, it'll say Rey Mysterio Jr. And that's his stuff. But they own like his uncle's name. And his uncle not going to sell a t-shirt. It's like, who the hell cares, really? And he probably gave him some money for it anyway. So you're talking about a vast empire full of stuff that you don't know what you can do with it. Because again, Vince keeps creating new value. When Vince was hoarding all of these old tapes, nobody knew what the hell he was hoarding tapes for. They was like, we don't get it. Why is he, spending money on these tapes for these dead wrestling promotions? These libraries. What is he going to do with it? Then he came out with the idea, I'm going to do WWE 24/7, have my own TV network. And then from there, it went to the network. And again, I think I told you guys a story before about Todd Gordon. All those years, Todd Gordon did not care that Vince owned Eastern Championship Wrestling. Did not care. As soon as he put out the ECW DVDs, and they sold millions of copies, and Todd Gordon was like, damn it, some of that should be mine. All of a sudden, wait a minute. I own ECW, Eastern Championship Wrestling. I own that. I never sold that to Paul Heyman. And the courts was like, bruh, what is this? You wait years after the fact to say you own it? Nah, get out of here. That's the kind of stuff that they should be looking at now. Yes, you have to value what they have now, but you have to think about it. What can you do with this stuff? What can you actually do? Which can you make with the money that they have? Now, the $9 billion is going to be stock, which is about $6 billion of that. Then you're going to take into account profit. Who knows how much he actually wants in profit? But then you also, again, buying all sorts of assets that goes with it. Now, those assets, some of them are depreciating in value because a lot of those old video reels and stuff like that, they're deteriorating. So some of that stuff is probably becoming worthless as we speak. And because the reels are not going to be useful. I don't think they're digitizing that stuff fast enough. I know they said they were trying to, but I don't think they're going to be able to digitize all of that stuff fast enough. And you're talking about a massive empire. $9 billion seems fair to me. And then when you talk about all the sweat equity that he put into it, 40 years building this company that he ended up buying from his dad for only $1 million. I think that $9 billion is, some of it is also going to be sentimental value. He's never going to work again. This is the end of his life. You're essentially paying the guy, he's going to go away somewhere and fade away, become obsolete. But there is also the opportunity that he's priced himself so high that nobody will want to buy in, which is also a possibility. And that possibility is, I don't think it's wrong to say that, because if you want to just say he wants to price it so high that nobody can buy it, and therefore he gets to stay in the seat. Well, that's possible. I wouldn't see a problem with that. I prefer Vince to be in control if you want to ask me. But they talk about it's going to be a done deal in 3 months or whatever. We'll see. But Endeavor doesn't want it. NBC Universal, they don't want it. Warner Brothers are probably about to get bought themselves, so they can't get it. When I said NBC Universal, I should have meant Comcast. Disney is almost broke, so they ain't gonna get it. The Khan family had to sell damn near everything they own, so they probably ain't gonna get it. They definitely need incredible financial backing. So I'm thinking that Vince is probably going to just, again, buy out his partners. I don't think the Saudis will buy it. I don't think the Saudis are going to buy it. If he wanted to sell it to the Saudis, he would have done it already. And he could have done it without a bidding process if he wanted to. They could have just said, "We'll give you $9 billion," and he would have been like, "Okie dokie," and that's it. Why go through the sham of having bidders and all this kind of stuff when these guys are willing to pay? They got the money, and they can do whatever they want with it. But the issue is going to be, are you going to be able to air the show? And what are you going to do? But I'm not an anyone but the Saudis kind of guy. I think the Saudis is the worst option for sure. But I don't really want it to be sold. I'm hopefully Vince is just being a devious mastermind, and he's gonna, if somebody comes with $9 billion and says, "Vince, I want to buy WWE," he'd say, "Oh, I changed my mind. It's worth $10.5 billion." And he just keeps doing that until people leave him alone. That's what I prefer. Either that or he, and that's it. Darren Miles has not heard that Disney is broke. Disney is broke, sir. They are in financial trouble, and it's partially because of the Well, the theme parks aren't doing very well. They've been in a war with the state of Florida right now over taxes and all that kind of stuff. But Disney is definitely in financial trouble. They don't have the money, not right now. And Warner Brothers has been bleeding cash ever since that merger with Discovery. They've been losing tons of cash. They're probably going to end up getting bought out. They got like I think $4 billion in debt or something like that, maybe $5 billion. But Disney is losing cash, burning money, and Warner Brothers is burning even faster than Disney. So both of those are pretty much out. Now, there are some other people that exist. I think people are not looking at some of the foreign companies that are looking to purchase. They're so focused on the Saudis. I wouldn't be too focused on the Saudis. There are other people out there with billions of dollars, private equity firms. There's fucking Japanese or Swiss promotion, companies or whatever. You would want to hope that Vince is looking at a American company to keep the business in the United States, but you never know. Sometimes it might be some kind of European investor that pops up and says, "I have $9 billion, but I'm based in the Netherlands," or something like that. And now I want to own the company. It doesn't have to be the Saudis. They just have the most money to play with, because money doesn't mean anything to them. So it doesn't matter. They can do whatever they want. WG Phil is correct. They own Eddie Guerrero's likeness outright, and they probably have bought the likenesses of many other wrestlers by this point, especially guys who have gone bankrupt in their later years. They probably sold their likeness to WWE by now. It's smart, Eddie's died in a lot of debt, so it was kind of smart. But I wouldn't be surprised if other families have sold the likenesses to their like Bruno. I think Bruno's in a video game, so I'm pretty sure maybe they bought the likeness to Bruno. Maybe. Who knows? But I'm pretty sure there's more guys. I think Vicky is the only one that actually went public with that whole thing. But most, if they're alive, they probably got some kind of likeness right. Brett, he has a lot of control over his own likenesses. Steve Austin and The Rock do too. So I would imagine as long as they're alive, they have some kind of control over their likeness. The issue is going to be when they die. I wouldn't be surprised if WWE hadn't bought the likeness to Chris Benoit too. They probably try to stop that movie from being made. Which would be the number one reason why you would buy any movie rights to Chris Benoit, buy the right to his name, image, and likeness, so nobody can make the movie. Or you could have some kind of lawsuit ready if they do try to make a movie. They still can make it because he's a public figure, but you might not want WWE associated with it, so maybe you force them to fictionalize it a little bit, like the wrestler. The wrestler, make it like that. But there's China. There could be like some kind of Chinese conglomerate could try to buy WWE. There could also be a merger. They could merge with another big media company, which is what I thought it might be. And I'm thinking that's probably what it's going to end up being. If Vince wants to give up control, it'll end up being something like that, where it's probably going to end up being a big merger of WWE and another big company. But some of the companies that everybody thought it would have been a year or two ago, it's not likely going to be it. And Saudi Arabia would be a disaster for public relations. China and the Saudis that's awful. And of course the Russians, Chinese, and the Saudis, those are awful. They're awful choices. Absolutely pitiful choices. I think the company will cease making money if it gets bought by Europeans. I can't tell you that much. If it gets bought by Europeans, they're probably going to start losing money because somehow Europeans are really bad at economics, even though they started the economics. They're really not that great at it. There's a reason why the United States, overtook them pretty quickly. That's because a lot of European countries still practice socialism. They just like socialists. They're democratic socialists, quote unquote. But it seems like most of the American giants, they're not doing very well. They're not in the right spot. But a lot of the cable giants are not doing that great right now. They're about to drop regional sports networks. Just cut them off. That's going to be tough for regional sports. It's going to be tough for regional broadcasting teams. It's going to be tough for small markets. It's going to be hard. So ask yourself, why is everything so bad right now? Some people didn't know Disney was in trouble. Some people didn't know Warner Brothers was in trouble. It was because they're not. Do you think just because they have billions of dollars that they can't possibly be losing money? How could it be possible that Disney is losing money? Because Disney keep making TV shows that don't sell. They keep upping the cost of going to the theme parks. People are not. They spent billions of dollars on Disney Plus. There's a lot of companies right now that's not doing as good as you think. It's not as good as you think. The world is. COVID did a lot of damage to the world. And a lot of that stuff is starting to really come to fruition right now. Even though it probably should have been before that, but it's also big time inflation. And people not spending the money that they had before. Elon Musk doesn't want to buy WWE. That's crazy. That's crazy talk. Now, what if it could be a tech company, though? What if there's a tech company that bought WWE? It's possible. An Amazon or something like that could buy WWE. Would they pay $9 billion for it? Probably not. And they wouldn't know what to do with it. So you'd be looking in the media space. So Apple was struggling because Apple, I think is it called Apple Plus? Or what is their streaming service called? But their streaming service has not had anything on it that has really made an impact. And WWE has shown through the Peacock deal that they actually can make an impact on business. They could really save a streaming service, turn a streaming service around. They're a centerpiece, a core piece of Peacock, which is why people thought it was natural that Comcast, NBC, Universal want to buy it. But apparently they're not in the position right now. Look, I'm pretty sure Vince is not against the company existing as an independent organization for the next few years, but he's going to want those TV rights deals to hit right. And the question is, are they going to be able to hit the way that he wants them to hit? Probably not, because these companies don't have money. Not the kind of money they had a couple of years ago. They ain't got that no more. Oh boy, a lot of people quit cable. They should try to merge. Try a merger rather than an acquisition. Instead of being bought outright, give Vince a seat at the table somewhere else and he split some of that stock with them. And call it a day, man. Call it a day. Diminish Vince's power a little bit. He sells like 40% of his stock. He still has enough so he can be in control. But there's somebody else there that can, argue with him for a little bit. But I'm really worried about the Walt Disney syndrome of what's going to happen with WWE, not when Vince dies, but the generation afterwards. Because again, it took a while before Disney got off focus. There used to be a time where you followed the founder's vision, and now that time is gone. People don't do that anymore. They do their own thing. Who wants to merge with a wrestling company, though? Depends on what kind of company you have. If you have a let's say you make video games and you want to own the intellectual property so you can make video games. Maybe that's your main focus. You want to keep making WWE video games. Maybe your main focus is that you have a streaming service that you want to make this the centerpiece of, and you maybe ask WWE to buy into what you do. Comcast, I think the asking price is probably a little too high for Comcast, but I think also they're losing money on Peacock. They're losing a lot of money on Peacock, and Viacom is losing a lot of money on what they're doing too. For starters, if they have a streaming service, they're losing money. That's just a little heuristic. If they have a streaming service, they're losing money because all streaming services are losing money. Nobody's making a profit. Okay, that's the first thing. So they're burning billions of dollars just off that. So you're in trouble. But if you're a sports organization, you might want to buy WWE. If you're a media company, you might want to buy WWE. Media we assume television is streaming, but it also could be television, streaming, video games. If you are a movie house, if you want to make films, if you're a film company, most film companies don't have this kind of money. But if you make movies, you might want to buy WWE. There's the thing of what WWE is, and they get to pick what it is at that point, because as long as it's pro wrestling, it's sports entertainment. But you can make it more theater, you can make it more cinematic, you can make it more sports, whatever your flavor of ice cream, once you own it. So it is what it is at that point. But I thought it would have been a natural pick for Comcast because they want something for their theme parks, but WWE can make that deal individually. They don't have to do that through being purchased. They could, NBC wants to start their own theme parks, and then they license out WWE for the intellectual property, and they do rides and attractions or whatever based on WWE. I think that's where they're going to end up having the Hall of Fame and end up having the museum. So I think that's been tossed around for a couple of years now, that the Hall of Fame and the museum is probably going to be part of some kind of theme park. And they're probably just waiting for Comcast to get it started. That someone that's super rich like Ted Turner could possibly buy WWE. That's true. NBC owns a lot of TV shows and stuff like that. Like they own like Seinfeld, but they also probably have. I would have to look at what their holdings are, because these companies, quite a few of them, they bought companies and that own like cartoons and stuff like that probably haven't been on the air in forever. Like the Law and Order Demon Drop. the Detective Benson. Right? No, but NBC probably owns like a lot of cartoon characters from like the past, and not quite as much as Disney or Warner Brothers. Like Warner Brothers owns like Looney Tunes, so that's a big deal. And Disney, of course, the Disney characters plus all the characters that they bought from Fox and all the characters that they got from Marvel. And so Disney is huge when it comes to stuff like that. But I'm pretty sure now NBC was like the Tick was on Fox, I believe. Isn't NBC Universal Studios? Yes. So they own like the zombie movies and the Mummy and all that kind of stuff. Like I think Scorpion King and all that shit. I think they own all that stuff. But it's probably some more stuff too that I can't think of off the top of my head. Probably Godzilla, King Kong, Universal Monster movies, stuff like that. But it's probably some other like some legitimate cartoons that they own, but I can't think of any. Because a lot of this stuff is these companies being passed around over and over and over again. And it's hard to tell who's going to own what at the end of the day. Oh, yeah, they own DreamWorks. Okay, there we go. I knew they owned something that had some cartoons in it. I knew they owned cartoons somehow. because just about everybody does. Yeah, so it's like Shrek and all that kind of stuff. Okay. So I knew it was something. WWE Monday Night Raw brought to you by Pfizer. Oh, Jesus. Oof. Oof. That's probably what's going to end up happening, though. It's going to get that bad. It's going to get that bad. They already had guys doing vaccine commercials, right? I'm not going to say. Last time I started talking about the vaccine on here, YouTube wanted to take my channel down. So I'm not going to do that. But I would say this. It's probably not a good idea. Probably not a good idea. But Big Pharma has hundreds of billions of dollars. They can buy whatever they want. They spend it on farmland and shit, though. Oops, I didn't mean to say that. Okay. Let's move on because there's another subject I want to talk about. And that is the REELZ and Peacock deal. Since we're talking about these companies, big companies merging and being acquired and all of this stuff, this one happened right under everybody's nose. REELZ ended up not quite merging with Peacock, but they're now in a space where their live stream will be airing on Peacock. So REELZ Network will be on Peacock. But, this does not include MLW. MLW will not be ported over. So this is a conversation, especially because of MLW and their deal with REELZ. So let's go through it and I'll explain. Hollywood Reporter. Peacock Inc.'s deal with REELZ channel, including live linear feed. So it says the niche cable channel will bring its live linear feed and on-demand programming to NBC Universal's streaming service beginning March the 1st. REELZ channel's biggest show is On Patrol Live, a police reality show that can trace its origins to the canceled A&E series Live PD. On Patrol Live, like Live PD, is hosted by Dan Abrams and a pair of former police officers who follow live footage of police on duty across the country. REELZ picked up the show last year and earlier this month handed it a 90-episode renewal. Ooh, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. I'm going to skip down to the bottom. There is one quirk under the REELZ deal. While it will include the channel's live linear feed, it will not stream Tuesdays in the 10 p.m. hour. As REELZ airs Major League Wrestling in that hour, Peacock has a streaming deal with WWE, which has exclusivity in the category on Peacock. Peacock's deal with REELZ continues the streaming service's push to add new sources of programming and bulk up its offerings. The WWE is a big piece of that puzzle, and last year Peacock inked a wide-ranging deal with Hallmark Media, which included a live feed of Hallmark Channel and some on-demand programming. Most notably, the deal gave Peacock access to Hallmark's trademark holiday movie slate. So it says, with the latest deal, Peacock now has live feeds for REELZ, Hallmark, WWE, and live NBC stations. Now, what was not mentioned in here, which is probably mentioned in a different article that I found, I'm looking for it. I'm going to be looking for it. Oh, yes, in the Variety article, if I remember correctly. Yes, this is the Variety version of that same article. It says the show hosted by Dan Abrams has success for REELZ, 107% increase in 2022. Wow. Just for that one show? That's kind of nutty. That's an important show then. Sheesh. But it says Peacock is also the exclusive streaming provider of WWE Wrestling. Because of that category exclusivity, when REELZ airs Major League Wrestling live on Tuesday evenings at 10 p.m., its linear channel won't be able to be on platform during that time. But Major League Wrestling wraps up after 10 weeks, making Reels Tuesday 10 p.m. linear offerings available after that. So. There's a lot of bits into this. For starters, Reels. I'm not really a big Reels guy. Doesn't really matter to me that much. But the MLW stuff. A lot of people flipped their hats when they saw that MLW wasn't going to be part of this deal. A lot of people then flipped their hats again because they didn't know that MLW is their run on Reels is actually coming to an end. Apparently, it surprised even MLW. They didn't know their Reels run was coming to an end. So, Reels and MLW have had to try to clarify this Variety article. Now, both, at least I think Reels contacted PW Insider. I'm trying to figure out. Matter of fact, I think I screenshotted it instead of putting it in here. Okay. So here's what they sent to Mike Johnson. It says Reels issued the following statement to PWInsider.com regarding the status of MLW Underground on the cable network. Quote, no decisions have been made by MLW or Reels, and we are both committed to a good outcome for MLW, its fans, and Reels. Now, what that means is that despite the fact that Variety says that MLW will be wrapping up in 10 weeks, there has been no decision made on whether MLW will be wrapping up in 10 weeks or not. So that's not much. That's not much of an oversight, but it's one that exists. I certainly have been missing the real show. I keep forgetting it airs on Wednesdays. On Tuesday nights. See, I even got the day wrong. I forgot it airs on Tuesday nights after NXT. I watched the first episode. I haven't watched another one since. It's unfortunate because I do like MLW, and when it was on Pro Wrestling TV, I watched it because I could watch it on demand. So it's it's been cool. It's cool. It's a cool product, but I gotta sleep at some point, brother. I gotta go to bed at some point. Sheesh, I already gotta stay up till 11 o'clock on a Monday, and I probably gonna have to do it again Sunday for the AEW show. But Reels is one of those networks where it doesn't really get bootlegged, so I can't even look at it after the fact. But I'm very proud to hear that MLW is doing well and their viewership is actually increasing in terms of their TV ratings. But to me, this is not that big of a deal. It doesn't hurt MLW that Reels is, being streamed live on Peacock because 11, I'm thinking we're looking at midnight. We might be looking at 12:30. Knowing AEW, man, we probably gonna be that joint at 1 a.m, bro. Anyway. MLW still has their cable deal, so everybody who thinks that MLW is going to sue WWE because they are infringing upon their deal with Reels, for starters, this is a deal between Reels and Peacock. It got nothing to do with WWE. WWE has an exclusive professional wrestling deal with Peacock. That's all it is. It just so happens that Reels comes to the table with a wrestling promotion. And the deal is obviously going to be that they're going to black out the wrestling promotion. The wrestling promotion will still air on television, but it will not air on Peacock. At least not as long as WWE is on Peacock. That's common sense. Companies, again, I don't have to explain exclusivity to this audience because, goddamn it, we've talked about it time and time again. Companies like Big Boy or McDonald's or whatever, they make a deal with either Coke or Pepsi. And then they only sell Coke or Pepsi. That's it. They don't sell both. All right. So if you're NBC, you're not going to have MLW and WWE. You're going to have MLW or WWE. And they already have WWE, so they don't need an MLW. So MLW can go and get a streaming deal, which I heard that they have been trying to do. That they're actually going to be able to get a streaming deal because the Real show is actually doing okay. Now, the Reels product, which I haven't seen, I've been hearing a lot about it, but I need to actually sit down and watch it. But because I do like MLW, like I said, so this shouldn't bother. It may end up in their lawsuit that was dismissed that, oh, WWE is affecting our ability to be seen by millions of people on Peacock because of their monopolistic blah, 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 blah. And it's going to get tossed because it got nothing to do with WWE. You have no right to be on Peacock just because Reels made a deal. They could have individually cut out shows if they wanted to anyway. The deal with Peacock existed before MLW was on Reels. It also doesn't affect MLW's deal with Reels because its deal with Reels is through linear cable. That's it. If they didn't make a linear cable deal, they can make a streaming deal with someone else, which is what they've been trying to do. I think they said Apple or Amazon is into the mix with MLW. We'll see. I really rolled my eyes when I heard like, oh, Amazon is going to pick up MLW. I was like, yeah, sure. AEW needs a streaming deal, but MLW is going to get one first. Probably not. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? Maybe they'll get somebody to buy a piece of the company. Who knows? But anybody who thinks that this is going to affect the lawsuit, you're wrong. It's not going to affect the lawsuit at all. They're probably going to try it though. It's a Hail Mary. They're going to throw it in the lawsuit. Recently, Reels made a deal with Peacock that would have brought MLW to millions of households and with Peacock or whatever, but WWE blocked it. It's like, well, did they block it or did their contract prevent that from occurring? A contract which, of course, you had no idea. You would have had to know that it existed, but it didn't have any action on WWE's part to prevent MLW from acting. So MLW is pretty much still dead. It's still not going to work out. Okay, what else we got here? Is there anything else that I have on the agenda? We might be able to spend the next couple of minutes on whatever you guys want, because I can't think of anything else on my end. Oh, okay. Here's a kind of a bonus one. The Wrestling Observer reports. Let's do potpourri. Potpourri at 130, 132. 133 rather. 3 minutes. Okay. Let's do it. So here's this crazy thing about Riddle. And I wasn't even thinking about this until just now. But it says the Wrestling Observer reports that Riddle's rehab ended quite some time ago, but he hasn't been invited back to WWE TV as of yet. It may be that they just decided not to use him for Mania and not do anything with him. Or maybe they just don't want to invest in him. I presume he'll be back. When he left, they made a point of saying he was going to be gone for 6 weeks, and we're at about 11 or 12 weeks. So, Dave Meltzer is suggesting that Riddle's in the doghouse, and they don't want anything to do with him. Of course, WWE continues to create product, and we don't know when Riddle is going to be brought back, if Riddle is ever going to be brought back. But he's got people believing that Riddle's going to be gone forever, which is not entirely true. Okay? Saying his rehab ended doesn't mean that you come back immediately after rehab. There also needs to be some decompression from your rehab, and then you don't go from, I'm finally done, detoxing, getting this stuff out of my body. My mind's finally clear. Let me go right back on the road. It's like, bro, let's ease him back in. You know, maybe they say, hey, stay off TV until after WrestleMania, which seems like a smart thing to do. They don't really mention him that much either. You know, now that T and Pyro mentioned, they don't really mention him that much. They don't talk about Riddle that much. I haven't seen him in a video package or anything for a while. But I definitely think, because Vegeta Lover is correct, Riddle is very popular, especially with the young kids. I definitely see him coming back. The issue is just going to be, you know, presentation. They're going to want to change his presentation a little bit, I think. Probably make him a little bit more serious. Because Goofy Riddle doesn't really fit into WWE today because they don't really have too many goofy characters. But they're probably going to want him to be a little bit more serious and all that kind of stuff. You know how Triple H is. Everybody's supposed to be super serial. With the exception of like two guys who gets to be silly, like Otis. He gets to be silly and somebody else does too. But just because his rehab is over, he still has to decompress. He still has to go through, you know, his mental, you know, decompressing his life. Like, he still had a tough situation. He got divorced. He had, you know, almost lost his job. He got accused of all kind of terrible things. There's some stuff that needs to be worked on there. There's some therapy that needs to take place. There's a lot of stuff that needs to happen with Riddle right now. He needs, if WrestleMania keeps the company busy, you know, he's going to miss the show, maybe. Don't know. But assuming he does miss the show, that he's not, you know, penciled in, then who knows? He might pop back up the Monday after. You know? But I wouldn't put out there that they may have given up on him. Like, why would you say that? What argument would you make to say that they gave up on Riddle? Just because they don't talk about him? They don't talk about Tommaso Ciampa either. Are we especially to believe that he's fired or dead or not coming back? They don't talk about Robert Roode either. You know, there's a lot of guys who are out right now that WWE doesn't even bother to mention. That doesn't mean that they hate him or, you know, they got some negative feelings towards him. It's simple. Out of sight, out of mind. You know? It's out of sight, out of mind. And plus, it's a bigger surprise when he turns around and comes back. But he's the kind of guy, though, they probably should make vignettes for. Especially if they're going to change his character. It should probably show the change in his character. And then give you a return date. Which would be fun. But I don't see a big issue with that. I think Meltzer's trying to make stories rather than reporting stories. He's trying to make them. All right, so let's talk about that Brock Lesnar thing. I know somebody brought it up earlier. That Brock Lesnar doesn't want to work with Bray Wyatt and apparently turned down a bunch of other suggestions so that he could work with Omos. That's one thing that I heard. Another thing that I heard is that Vince picked Omos for Brock. And Brock just said, yeah. But it seems to me that people want a story made out of this. They want a story made out of this Brock and Omos thing. There's no story to be made. Brock has some level of creative control. And his creative control allows him to pick his own opponents, or he's not going to appear, or whatever. He wanted an easy night. And he's like, okay, Omos, cool. That works. That works for me. Maybe he handpicked Omos, because, again, like I said, it makes him look great when he throws Omos around and gives him an F5 and everything. I don't think Vince did it. I don't think Vince was like, Omos, pal, that's where the money is. I think, you know, Brock likes bigger guys. You know, remember Brock, the story that Drew McIntyre said that, you know, Brock was the one who pulls him aside back when he was doing 3MB. and said, hey, why are you doing this stupid shit? You know, basically, you're a big guy. Get your act together. Brock probably sees something in Omos that nobody else can see or nobody else saw, and he wants to try to make something happen. Why is it that when he wants to actually try to do some work, everybody's kind of like, oh, I don't want to. I want to see Brock wrestle matches, and Brock's like, oh, I see something in this guy. I might be able to get something out of this dude. You know, it's going to be short because Brock's not going to work that long, not going to work that hard, but it's a really good David versus Goliath match. It's going to be short. You better get your hot dogs and your potato chips pretty quick. I don't think that match is going to go more than 6 minutes. 6 minutes might be a marathon for those two guys. I think Lashley and Omos was about 6 minutes, wasn't it? That's about right. To me, it's a good spectacle. I just don't like how we got here. Again, what happened to Brock and Lashley? I don't like that idea. The idea of Brock turning down Bray Wyatt and not wanting to do what Bray Wyatt wants to do, that works for me too, because Brock doesn't fit in that Bray Wyatt universe. He doesn't fit over there doing that stuff. Lashley doesn't fit either, but I guess they need to have a spectacle for the other night. But Brock trying to help Omos, I don't have a problem with that. I don't know why anybody would have a problem with that. You know, they complain that he don't help anybody, that he doesn't do anything. Now he's trying to do something, because the only way Omos gets this spot is if Brock wants it. So I have to assume that Brock wants him in this spot for a reason. You know, he either A, sees something in the guy, or B, just wants to be in a good spot at WrestleMania where he don't have to work that hard. He'll get paid and leave. That's it. So there that goes. But I don't think it's a big conspiracy that everybody hates Bray Wyatt. I just think that he looks at it and says that character doesn't work with what I do. And it doesn't. The puppets and the colorful lighting and all the cinematic stuff, that stuff, it really doesn't help Brock or his character. And then what kind of match could you possibly have with Bray? Outside of either A, you kill Bray and therefore you become public enemy number one because you murdered him, or B, Bray kills you and destroys the mystique of Brock Lesnar. No, you can't do that. So it's better if you just don't do it. It's a good business reason to not do it, not even creatively. Business-wise, you're taking two guys who probably shouldn't even be in the same ring, and you're going to have to come up with a creative reason for them to fight. And then when the fight happens, no matter who wins, the people are going to be pissed off because the match is not going to be that great. So the work, and plus two lazy motherfuckers, they're not going to work out. All right. Bray's match ain't going to be 10 minutes either. Okay. Neither one of them are going to be 10 minutes. Bray is all about everything outside the ring. It's going to be all, like TOD says, moonshine and polka dot door. That's all it's going to be. It's going to be that kind of stuff. It ain't going to be nothing to do with no wrestling. You know, you may do 2 or 3 moves and that's it. That's it. They're selling spectacle. They're selling sizzle here. It'll be all right. You're going to get your work rate matches too, for Christ's sake. You're going to get them. Sheesh. But this is going to be Undertaker versus the Giant Gonzalez. Undertaker versus King Kong Bundy. That level of stuff. And I don't have a problem with that. I don't care about that at all. Go for it. This is Hogan and Sid. Go for it. You know, do your thing. Just make it good. Just make it good. Why they wouldn't do Braun Strowman? Maybe because Brock doesn't like Braun Strowman. You know, Braun Strowman did punch him in the head that one time. That wasn't no fun. But why not Bray and Braun? That would have been my. I know that Braun is a babyface, but Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman could have finished their story, and Braun Strowman's probably not looking like he's not going to make the card. That's no fun. That's no good. But when you got a guy like Omos, you got a guy like Braun Strowman, these guys are huge men that people believe in. the kind of guys who would have made WrestleMania 1 or 2 or 3 or 6 or 7 or 8, 11, 22. There are some WrestleManias where the big guys got smaller and smaller, but a guy like Omos, yeah, you could. Sometimes a guy just being tall is a talent, and that's it. Yeah, but they didn't get to finish their story because they threw Roman Reigns in the middle of it. So even though Bray and Braun already did their thing, they didn't get to finish it because they threw Roman Reigns in there in the middle of it and took the belt from him. But I'm not against what Brock did. This is a smart move. He's trying to help Omos. No big deal. What else is there out there floating around? That what else is there? What's out there floating around? I'm looking in the comment section because you guys have been talking about stuff, and I was trying to stay on focus. But I know you guys mentioned, somebody mentioned something earlier. Oh yeah, the Jeff Hardy thing. Okay, so Jeff Hardy is going to be able to get away from jail time, and his license is suspended for 10 years. And now everybody's talking about he should come back to wrestling. Look, man, I think Jeff should retire. Jeff Hardy should retire. Call it a day. All right? It's over. To me, if you have a problem with drugs and alcohol, the number one thing you should try to do is get away from your triggers. And wrestling has got to be a trigger. When you notice, like a lot of the guys who ended up getting clean, it wasn't until after they retired. Like some people can get clean and then go back in. Other people need to get away from the business completely and then they could be clean. And I know that Jeff doesn't want to end his career on a sour note, getting arrested for another DUI. And, he wants that, he might want that hero's goodbye in front of a crowd and everything. But at the same time, he just beat jail again. He beat jail. He's gotten a lot of chances. It might be better for him if he just says quietly retires, just quietly goes away. Tony Khan's not going to release him out of that contract. You can forget it. He didn't really do anything for AEW anyway. He wasn't really a needle mover. I think they threw him on Rampage already at that point. But he doesn't need to be wrestling or focused on wrestling right now. He needs to, I don't know how old his kids are, but he's got to think about his kids. If he goes back onto the road, whether it's AEW, WWE, or anywhere else, and he screws up again, then you're talking about the people who are diehard Jeff Hardy fans. Like, look, screw this guy. There's a lot of people who were on the fence already, and those guys are going to. I was on the fence when he was in TNA. That should tell you right there. Like, I'm on literally my last strand of hair for Jeff Hardy. This ain't accusations that the guy was on drugs. This is literally, you could see it. There's literal evidence that this guy is got a major, major problem. And I think that if you are a true Jeff Hardy fan, you want him, the next time you hear that theme song and you see him come out, it should be to announce his retirement and that he's going to go home and he wants to get away from all of this stuff and he wants to raise his kid. He doesn't need the money. And if he needs a thrill, he to ride his dirt bike or whatever he's going to do. Paint his pictures and sing terribly into a microphone or whatever. But he needs to stop beating up his body. Jeff Hardy's been doing it since he was 16. No, he was 14, I believe. He was doing it since he was 14. The guy's in his 40s. He's been doing this for 30 years. And he's been destroying his body for 20 of those. You got to start thinking about quality of life at this point. if something bad was to happen to him, not just could he end up in jail, or could he hurt somebody else, it's how much damage is he really doing to himself? And it's irresponsible to ask him to come back at 40 some odd years old, fresh off of another near miss in jail, with alcohol apparently still around. I mean, you just because there's a couple of guys on AEW's roster that are former alcoholics. Lance Archer is one of them. Big Cass is another one. Jon Moxley is another one. And then you will have Jeff Hardy as one. But then you have guys on the roster that are not. These guys are not. These guys are party guys or whatever. And going out there on the road, knowing that you can't do any hard drugs, it kind of incentivizes drinking. I know that Brett said that about, the weed and stuff, like, guys not wanting to be able to do weed, led them to drink. But it doesn't really matter. Jeff doesn't need this environment anymore. He just doesn't need this environment anymore. Did I talk about Eddie Kingston quitting AEW? No, because it's a storyline. I didn't even watch the promo. So, no. They're just going to move him over to Ring of Honor. Which, who cares? Who cares about me being sent over to the Ring of Honor? I just want to get away from Ortiz. He said he met Big Cass at a bar. Jesus Christ. Did you call him soft? Did he call you soft? A lot of guys have problems with drugs and alcohol. Some people just have less control than others. Jeff is one of those guys. And plus, his style is so physical. He takes so many bumps. And they keep putting him in ladder matches and stuff like that. And him jumping on chairs, as WG Phil said, the stuff that they want from Jeff Hardy isn't the stuff that he can do and do it sober. It's just like DMX. I don't know if you guys fans of DMX, but DMX went on the radio once and he was tripping because he was saying, like, people keep telling him they want, it's dark and hell is hot. He kept saying, like, I can't do that. I made that whole album when I was high. Like, he was high on crack when he made that album. He's trying to be sober. Like, y'all keep saying that y'all want me to be, the guy that I was when I was fucked up. It's the same thing that with these wrestlers, with the perk angle and all that kind of stuff. Oh man, Kurt off the perk and all that kind of junk. It's like, okay. So what you saying? So what you saying, really? Kurt Angle should pop a perk and get jump in the ring with Chad Cable? No. That dude's 50-something, man. It's not going to work. It ain't going to work. Jeff needs to just hang it up. He's never been a technical wrestler anyway. He's always been a daredevil. He's not going to be able to get in there, take those bumps, and jump off stuff. And it was a wild time. That perk angle stuff was nutty. But it's not a surprise that some people do their best work when they're out of their mind. They're disassociated. They probably don't even remember it was them. And some of that stuff they probably don't even remember doing. They wrestling and fighting like they're in somebody else's body. Because 9 times out of 10 they are. They when they are high, they are a completely different person than when they're not. When they're high, they don't have to deal with the pain. Because most of the time they're taking painkillers or they're drunk and they're not thinking about the pain. But the real person who's underneath, that's the person whose knees is locked up when they try to get up in the morning. whose back hurts when they're trying to get up. That's when the drink is out their system and everything, and they're just back to being regular on Michael Hickenbottom. He's like, oh no, my back. What is going on here? You know, oh no, I need to go pop some more painkillers. I would rather Jeff retire. I have plenty of Jeff Hardy memories. I don't think Jeff Hardy can do anything left. I don't think there's anything Jeff Hardy can do right now that I need to see. That's just a fact. One more match with Edge or Christian or teaming up with Matt. I don't want to see Matt anymore. I don't want to see Jeff wrestle anybody that's currently wrestling right now. Not because I don't think he can hang, but because I already know Jeff will have to take a tremendous amount of bumps and take a risk in order to make the match interesting. But in doing so, he'd be destroying his body. He'd end up back in a bar or something. I don't want it. I don't want it. I want Jeff to go. I don't need a match bad enough. I don't need a single wrestling match that bad. Goodbye, Jeff. I would rather Jeff retire. I would rather Jeff just retire. Matt knows that the bulk of his worth is with Jeff. He thought that maybe he could get over on the whole delete junk, but it didn't quite work out. And I don't know, man. I remember people was talking about Jeff being kind of screwed up because of the way he left WWE. And Matt and his wife and everybody came out and was like, ha ha ha, you guys made a big mistake. Jeff was completely and totally sober. And then just a few months later, Jeff was arrested for DUI. That's what made me lose respect for Matt Hardy. When it was kind of like, ha ha ha, we got him. We stole him away from WWE. Y'all jumped the gun. Ha 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 ha. And then his brother ended up in jail. That's what made me lose respect for Matt. Because clearly something was wrong when he jumped that barricade. Something clearly was wrong then. Oh, but his drug test came back clean. Well, guess what? Guess what the drug test won't pick up? It's ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous. Vegeta Lover said, I just saw Alex Shelley have to yell at Ace Austin to get in the ring for a spot. Well, Ace Austin is like 25 or something like that. Alex Shelley is like 40. I'm not surprised. Despite the fact that Ace Austin has been doing this for a while, he's a kid. Yeah, a lot of people were very happy that Jeff Hardy got over because they were going to get him from AEW, from WWE, and everybody was like, there was something suspicious about that. It was very suspicious. And despite the fact that they were like, he passed the drug test, I was like, drug test? Huh. I wonder what they tested him for. Because we see what the problem is when it popped up on a drug test. You know, that shit ain't gonna pop. It's not. Okay. It's goofy. That was some awful stuff, man. I would rather Jeff just retire. I would rather Jeff just call it quits. Just call it a day, man. Everybody still loves him. And to me, he'll always be one of the GOATs. But if he ends up going to prison for like another DUI or something like that, like, bro, I don't want that. Just go home and raise your kids. Motor City Machine Guns just lost the Impact Tag titles to the Bullet Club just now. Oh, geez. So I'm assuming it's Ace Austin and Chris Bay. Look, those two guys have been treading water for a year and a half or something like that. Finally, they got something, I guess. Is there anything else? It gotta be something else before we call it quits on the evening. Yes, there's one more thing. Mm. Okay. We probably gonna end up doing another 10 minutes. Chavo Guerrero went on Twitter and was actually trying to explain to people that the Miz getting kicked out of the locker room was warranted. This was weird. So again, like I was saying before, the Miz was getting a lot of sympathy for getting kicked out of the locker room. This video at the time of Chavo Guerrero tweeting was like 32,000 views, 32,000 likes, 1.4 million views. So Chavo Guerrero watches the video and says, quote, "You're listening to his version. The punishment was definitely warranted." And then when somebody was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "First-hand knowledge. I knew the wrestler whose bag was in question. For the record, all the locker room agreed." Meaning that one person didn't put the Miz out of the locker room. It was a team effort. Everybody kicked him out. He says, "And for the record, back in the day, the women's locker room was much more brutal than the men's. Moolah, Sherry, Medusa, Mae Young were all badasses. And if you weren't respectful, they would definitely let you know it." So he says, he continues, he says, "If no punishment was given, would Miz have learned anything? He learned a lot and became the wrestler he is today. On a side note, money is not everything," because somebody clearly says that Chavo Guerrero was jealous of the Miz because the Miz was rich and all this kind of stuff. Then he continues that this hazing, somebody, the fans is like, this hazing thing is unfair and making somebody stand out in the hallway for 6 months is not right. So Chavo says 6 months is actually kind of light. If it was 10 years earlier and Sean did not work with somebody, he would have been fired from the company. Truth. And that is true. That's a fact. Sean got guys fired before. And everybody, of course, jumping up on Chavo. It's excessive. It's too much. Yada, yada, yada. So Chavo says, maybe, but that was up to the veteran, Undertaker, to decide. He decided 6 months was enough punishment, enough said. So, yeah, that was the weird thing because everybody's told that Chris Benoit kicked him out and Undertaker let him back in. But now they're saying Undertaker was kind of like, was in agreement with the kick out, but then also was kind of like, all right, it's over. But it's weird that for years we have only been getting Miz's side of the story. We've only heard that the Miz got kicked out of the locker room and that, about the chicken and the bag thing. Chavo didn't go into any detail about what actually happened, but I'm guessing it was a little bit more than chicken in the bag. I'm guessing it was a little bit more than that. To get kicked out of the locker room for 6 months and for it to be disrespectful and people not wanting to work with you, I'm thinking there's more to it than that. But until somebody, it's something that the boys hashed out amongst themselves. So I really don't believe that it's our place to criticize it too much, as long as it didn't end up, with somebody getting abused. There's going to be hazing in masculine spaces, it just is what it is. And these, because men want to know that you are a member of the team, that we're playing the same game, that we want the same, we want to be on the same side. So they're going to test you. And 6 months is a long test, but there are stories, and if you've seen video, if you paid attention, that you will see guys who've been wrestling for a long time, they'll get the job of giving guys water when they come through the curtain. You guys probably didn't see any WWE documentaries or something like that where Shinsuke Nakamura was standing near Gorilla and he was giving guys bottles of water as they was coming through. That guy was in his 30s, but it's kind of a respect thing, So they test people, because you're giving this guy your body, he's slamming you, you're slamming him, and you're doing jobs for him and stuff like that. people are against that kind of thing, but it does build brotherhood. It helps. And The Miz has a lot of respect now because he went through that. And that's what Chavo was trying to tell everybody. He's like, look, he got punished. He deserved it, but he made it through. That's why everybody's talking about The Miz today, because he made it through, the fire. But it could have been worse. Like it could have been worse. And we certainly know that it was worse in the 90s. It was very bad. In the 90s, it was the shits. And Sean and the Clique, boy, they made it. They ruled the roost. They had everybody complaining. Bam Bam, Sid, Viscera, Mark Henry. There was nothing good about that locker room. There was nothing good about that locker room. And they were shitting in each other's bags. They was doing that up until Randy Orton shitting in somebody's bag, if I remember correctly, as a female, I think. So they were still doing that in the 2000s. So that sitting out in the locker room, yeah, that was light. When you kept hearing that dudes were getting their bag shit in, whew, that was Leo Rush. Leo Rush was the one saying he didn't want to carry anybody's bags. But Mark Henry, he was on Yokozuna duty. He talked about that he had he was basically Yoko's driver, and he paid for his hotel rooms and stuff like that. But yeah, there's a lot of guys who rebelled against that system and ended up getting booted out eventually. Nobody's gonna make it through. Because the top guys ain't gonna want to work with you if you're disrespecting the lower card guys. Why the fuck would Roman want to work with you if you can't even show any respect to like Rick Boogs and stuff? And you may say, why do I have to? It's like because they're all part of the same team and you want to be on the team. That's the thing. You trying to be on? They're already on the team. You want to be on the team. You want to be in the inner circle. You want to be one of the guys. Unless you don't, and you don't think you're special or something like that. And we see that it ends up being worse when they don't do that, though. It ends up being more of a chicken coop when guys don't prove that they have any type of loyalty or trust or anything like that. It ends up being worse. So it sounds bad, but it could have been worse. I can tell you that much. These locker rooms, without these little initiations, they tend to be far more catty. Look at the AEW locker room. Half those guys hate each other for no reason, and they only see each other once a week. There's no brotherhood. How can there be? The people who are friends are friends. They've been friends for a long time. That's why they got each other jobs and shit. Everybody else is an antagonist to that friend group. Why do you think that is? They're not integrating more people into their group. They're still being insular while other people are joining the company. So people are joining the company and bumping heads with this clique that's in the company, and they're the clique that runs the damn company. Your group needs to be insular. You need to have a way for other people to become members of your group. Otherwise, you end up with a clique situation where everybody on the outside hates the company, or hates you at least. The clique was even kind of friendly with other cliques within the company because they were wide enough that they understood. There was a level of trust. There was some palms being greased. But if you was on the outside, there was kind of like, screw you. Why would I care? And it seems from the CM Punk side of things that there was a CM Punk locker room, then there's an Elite locker room. And those two did not mix that much. Cody had his own group of guys that you see that, when Cody stopped working with them, they were de-emphasized. Same thing with the Elite. When they stop working with certain guys, they become de-emphasized. And it becomes clear who's, Triple H, you can see it. He pushes his NXT talent. He de-emphasizes a lot of the guys he didn't really do anything with in NXT. He did nothing with Elias in NXT, so he doesn't do anything with Elias now. He didn't do anything with Alexa Bliss in NXT. He's not doing anything with Alexa Bliss now. He didn't do anything with Lacey Evans in NXT. He's not doing anything with Lacey Evans now. It's the same thing over and over again. you have to ingratiate yourself to the clique that is running this space, whether it's a football team, any type of club, office culture, whatever it is. You had to build yourself something in order to be comfortable in that situation. To let people know that you can trust them, they can trust you. Otherwise, you're an outsider, and why should anybody want to be bothered with you? Yeah, Undertaker had his own little clique. All his guys were full of bums, though. He had like the Godwin and Savio Vega and Yoko. There's some other guys. The Godfather was one of them. No top guys. No, like I guess Yoko was a top guy for a while, but no real like tippy top guys. But you look at a situation where you need to build camaraderie, and whenever your situation where you're trying to build camaraderie goes out into the open world, it always comes across as being very weird. It's like, because it's not for you to understand. It's for these guys who are doing it in this space to understand. Like when, gamers, when they were doing things like teabagging each other and the way they talk to each other in the gamer space. If you're not a gamer, of course you're not. If you're observing from the outside, you don't know what they're doing. You need to mind your business. We've gone full circle. Mind your business. The gamers talk to each other a certain way. Comic book guys and manga guys, they talk to each other a certain way. Wrestling fans talk to each other a certain way. That comes from the way that people are insular and allow people to come into their space and bring their expertise and their talents or whatever to this space and build a community, to put it in that frame of thought. And you want people to actually be able to add something, not just subtract, not just come in for themselves. You don't want to be taken advantage of. You don't want flighty people coming and going and back and forth and all that kind of crap. Because if you notice that anybody who kind of came and went in WWE, they didn't really become too much successful except Sid. He was the only one that kind of came and went that was successful. Even guys like Hennig, or a guy like who was more of a Shawn Michaels friend, if I remember correctly. He wasn't really a clique guy, but he was Shawn's friend. Scott Hall's friend too. Far more of a clique guy than an Undertaker guy. Rick Rude would be another one who would be more of a clique guy than an Undertaker guy, because he was best friends with Hennig. Even though he did break away with the clique after Montreal, and he ended up left and going to WCW. But sometimes you have these guys who are kind of stuck in the middle, like these Mick Foley kind of guys. Mick Foley ended up getting the Undertaker, kind of took him under his wing a little bit. But it's all about trust, brotherhood, friendships. It's not going to make sense to everybody. It's not meant to. Like when I used to listen to my dad talk about going to the military, you'd be like, why would you do all of these runs and doing push-ups in the mud and all this kind of stuff? Like, why would you even want to do that? You have to be there. You have to experience it. It's the same thing when I watch like these real gangster movies and stuff. And these guys, they're threatening to kill you 100 times, and you're like, yo, he a man just like you. Like I never understood the concept of being in a gang. And this dude is a man just like you, talking to you any kind of way. It's not meant for me to understand. It's meant for the dudes who want to be in there. Part of why they don't just blow away Big Meech or whoever who's talking shit to them is because they want to be like him. They want to get in that inner circle. This is where the money at. I want to get in there. If that means I got to take some disrespect right now in order to become part of his inner circle later, I'll take that. It's a strategy. Everybody uses it. Mean Girls use it. Corporate America uses it. Everybody uses it. And it's going to seem weird to other people. And there's, of course, extremes. You don't want anybody to bleed, die, or be publicly humiliated. The humiliation ritual of Hollywood. Every time you turn around, some man in a dress. It seems weird to me. Seems weird to you. But to them, it's not weird. It's just acting, bro. Christianity, the body of Christ, you eat the cracker or whatever. It seems weird to people who don't do that. Doesn't seem weird to them, though. You know, Muslims taking their shoes off before they get into the house. Seems weird to everybody else. Doesn't seem weird to them. Everybody's going to have their own little cultural things that they do. And some people are going to fail. And those people who fail to integrate are going to be the ones who are going to run around telling. Talking too much. Oh, man, they tried to make me do blah, 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 blah. Again, that was that whole argument about Mark Henry and Leo Rush was about. Leo Rush was a kid who didn't understand what they was asking him to do, why he had to carry somebody else's bags, why he had to give bottles of water after the match, why did he have to stay and watch the entire show when his match is over, that kind of shit. He didn't understand it. Well, at the time, Leo Rush was 25. He's a kid. He came straight from the Indies. He didn't have that indie culture was basically you come and you go. There was no brotherhood there. If you met somebody, cool, you probably went to Waffle House and you probably didn't see him again for 2 weeks. Probably never saw him again. But here, you're seeing people multiple times a week. You know, there's going to be some type of, if you are around here, you know, in the NFL and the NBA or whatever, they still have their little things. They're not allowed to do the things that they used to do. Like they used to tape guys to the goalpost and all that kind of stuff. Now they say, well, the rookies have to buy lunch or something like that. And that still kind of rubs people the wrong way because the rookies make the less money. It's like, come on. Let them build camaraderie. Let them build their team. Let them do them. You mind your business. People don't get that. That's real. That's what Chavo should have said. Say, look, it was all part of the Miz and his initiation ritual. He wanted to be one of us. He wanted to be a WWE superstar. This is what it means. You respect people's space. You know, you respect people's authority. You respect everybody. Eventually, they come to respect you. You win over enough for people, you get respect even if that person doesn't like you. I mean, it is what it is. And I'm a person that understands that. Yeah, if you really feel disrespected, try to fight them. Shit. You know, like let's step outside, man. That's the ultimate decision maker right there if you're willing to fight for it. How badly do you mean it? You know? But there are so many situations that probably could be settled with a little fist fight, but you're not going to get one. That's why I said gangs is one of them. You know, I could never. I don't have the temperament to be a gangbanger, yo. That's just. I don't have the temperament to be a gangbanger. I was too ill-tempered to be a part of a gang. Like, you wouldn't have had to threaten me once. Like, if I took that threat seriously, I'd be in prison right now. I've seen dudes, you know, and they make jokes about that kind of stuff too. Like, you know, you're the kind of nigga we used to send to the store. You're like, what? You run into the store for these dudes? You his errand boy? You going to get his dry cleaning? Like, what? Well, it's not for me to understand though. You know, it's for them to understand. They know what they're doing, and everybody know what they're doing. You know, so there it is. As long as you don't go overboard, the other person is willing to go along with it. Like I was talking about, you know, standing at Gorilla, giving bottles of water away. If that's what your mission for the day is to just give bottles of water away, and you're gonna fight it, you're gonna argue it, everybody's gonna be like, oh, okay. We'll see when creative starts throwing your name around about a guy we should be working with. I'm gonna be like, nah, pass. And if enough people pass on you, you're just gonna be sitting at home. You'll be sitting in catering. Nobody's gonna want to do anything for you. You're not one of us. Why should I want to put my shoulders on the mat for you? Oh yeah, something's going to run overtime on this show. Well, cut his match. Fuck him. You know, you can say it's unfair, but you're not on the team. You're not a team player, so they're not going to play with you. They're going to treat you like you want to be an outsider. They're going to treat you like one. But then there is stuff that goes too far. You know, there is stuff that goes too far. There are some things stuff that people did, like stuff that, I'm just going to say stuff that people did or people were asked to do that I'm just kind of like, I don't get it. I don't get it. It's not for me. You know, it's not for me. You know, but people are asked to do all kind of stuff. And you're like, okay, hopefully it worked out for you. But when you're trying to build a team or a lifelong brotherhood, it's going to seem weird to people on the outside. It's not supposed to seem weird to people who are not trying to be a part of it. I never understood gangs. That was my whole thing. Like, being with my friends was fun. I never really thought of it as a gang. If you didn't like my friend, then there better be a good reason. But we weren't gonna, gang bang. We weren't gonna tell me what kind of colors I can wear, what kind of street I can be on. I wasn't gonna play that game. Like, I didn't have time for that. And I was willing to pay the price for it. But my whole thing was, it's not for me to understand. And I understand. I'm smart enough, may not be brilliant, but I'm smart enough to know that not everything in this world is for me to understand. It's not for me to get. Cultures exist. Cultures exist everywhere. People in a house behave a different way. Some people don't mind if I grew up in a house where if I let you in my house, I'm letting you in my refrigerator. But there's some people who say, I'll let you in the house. You don't go no further than the living room. Maybe go to the bathroom and that's it. You can't go in my kitchen. You can't go in my refrigerator. You can't go in my cupboards. And people just conform to that. They're like, okay, that's cool. I just want to be in the house. I just want to be here. Some people, they go all out. It's just different temperaments, different people. They have different relationships. I don't understand why people don't get that. So the locker room had a hazing vibe, because that is what they were doing, if we're being honest. But it didn't matter because they weren't hazing you. It was hazing the Miz. And the Miz was the one who volunteered to come and try to be a WWE superstar after being on the Real World and all that kind of stuff, and people didn't believe him. They didn't believe that he really wanted to be a part of the team. They didn't believe it. So they put it to the test, and they found out, well, shit, he does want to be a part of the team. So guess what? He became part of the team. And guess what? That stuff stopped. It stopped. He could have quit, went on TV and started talking about how they put me out. What would he be doing right now if he did that? He'd have missed out on everything. He'd have missed out on his wife, millions of dollars, or whatever. But for some people, it wouldn't have been worth it. So it's all a personal decision. But since it's my decision to make, I'm okay with the outcome, because it ain't my decision to make. So it's up to them. All right. Are we done? Oh, yeah. Okay, so I guess we want to talk about the ratings. Dynamite's ratings plummeted. I heard that the NBA game was on. Okay. There was 2 NBA games on, if I remember correctly. They get 833, which is worse than I thought. You would think a show that had a ladder match on it would have done better. But 833, oof. That's just big oof. But I mean, I don't know I didn't have any expectations. And I always believed that even though they said, and by they I mean analyzers of the TV ratings, they claimed that the lower quarter hour was actually the announcement, was the lowest quarter hour. But it didn't take them 15 minutes to do the announcement. It took them, what, 3 minutes? So 3 minutes out of that whole 15-minute period was probably the announcement. So I don't know how people can say the announcement lost money. Lost viewers. It's likely that people saw the announcement and then immediately turned away. You know, especially when the announcement was passed off to somebody else. It's probably kind of like, oh, this is not important then. If he's not going to do it himself, when he announced Ring of Honor, he did it in the middle of the ring and he did it himself. He announced his show. He basically just used himself as bait and then switched it, which, you know, hey, it is what it is. But it's pretty sad. It was pretty sad. Let's see. Is there anything else? Goldberg wants one more match. I think he'll probably end up getting it. He said he wants to have a match in Israel. I think that's fitting. You know. I think that's fitting. It was boring. I fell asleep in the first 7 minutes of what? Dynamite. If you watch Dynamite, you know, welcome to the club for starters. Secondly, you would have known after that Orange Cassidy. Ugh. It's the shits. It's the shits. It was not good. I don't know, man. Again, it's one of those things that's probably not for me to understand. All right, it's 10:30, y'all. I'm gonna hang it up. My mouth is super dry. I need some water. I'm probably gonna go to bed a little bit early tonight. But thank everybody for coming through. Do all the YouTube things, guys. Hopefully everybody hit the like button. Please hit that like button, especially if you got this far into the video. And I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.